Good morning. Can we please stand? And shall we bow our heads as we invoke God's blessing? Lord, first and foremost, we thank you for the gift of life and for bringing each of us here safely. We are grateful for everything that you've done and continue to do in our personal and professional lives. We ask that ears and minds be open and receptive to the information, suggestions, and concerns that may be expressed. May this gathering yield much fruit that will provide sustenance to each LFI and, by extension, the entire ECCU financial system. Lord, bless the management and staff of all our LFIs and the ECCB. Please continue strengthening and guiding them in the execution of their duties. At this moment, we also offer prayers for our brothers and sisters in Jamaica. May you continue to give them the spiritual wherewithal to rebound from the devastating effects of Melissa. All of this we ask in your name, O Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Archibald, for your invocation. Minister of Finance for Grenada, Mr. Dennis Cornwall, Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Mr. Timothy N.J. Antoine, Deputy Governor, Dr. Valda F. Henry, Chief Director Policy, Dr. Tracy Polias, executives of our licensed financial institutions, management and staff of the ECCB, colleagues and friends, welcome. Once again, good morning, and a welcome to all of you. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the 7th Annual Conference with Licensed Financial Institutions. I am Stephanie Pascal, an economist in the Research Statistics and Data Analytics Department here at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. And it is my absolute honor to serve as your Master of Ceremonies. This year's theme, Navigating the Intelligent Age, Financial Innovation, Resilience, and Inclusion in the ECCU, reminds us that as technology transforms the way we operate, we too must continue to innovate without compromising financial stability, and more importantly, furthering financial inclusion across our region. We have a dynamic program ahead today, filled with presentations, engaging panel discussions, and opportunities to network and exchange as we chart the future for the Eastern Caribbean's financial landscape. To officially open today's conference, please invite Mr. Timothy N.J. Antoine, the Governor of the ECCB, to deliver our welcome remarks.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies, our very own Stephanie Pascal, an economist in the Research Statistics and Data Analytics Department. The flight will be about 20 minutes today. So good morning. And I want to start by acknowledging the presence of the Honorable Dennis Cornwall, our Minister of Finance of Grenada and our Monetary Council member for Grenada. I acknowledge our Deputy Governor, Dr. Henry, our Chief Director, Dr. Pulius, our board member from Anguilla, Mrs. Marissa Hardin-Hodge, and all other very senior officials across the currency union and at the bank. I especially welcome the President of the ECCU Bankers Association, Mr. Roy Phillips, and all members, executive members of the Bankers Association. I see around the room the Managing Director of the Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange, Mr. Trevor Blake, and I want to especially welcome him. And I take pride in doing that because I won't have too many more opportunities to do that. Trevor, for those of you who don't know, is going to be demitting soon, and after a very stellar career leading the securities market in our region. Give him a round of applause, please. Thank you. There'll be more to say on that soon. To all those who are joining online, I especially welcome you, and I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to greet you. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you approach our campus this morning, you may have noticed, and I hope my slides can move because I don't have a clicker, so I'm depending on someone to assist me with that. You may have noticed our entrance offered a very welcoming embrace. So, may I have the clicker, please? Okay, I'm getting help. Thank you very much. And that entrance offers a welcoming embrace that reflects the spirit and solidarity of the ECCB and the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. There's something about the flags when you walk in. There's something about the campus. Its arms open wide, saying, welcome, we were waiting on you. What took you so long? So I welcome you this morning. And I'm delighted to welcome each of you to the ECCB campus and our 7th annual conference with licensed financial institutions. We are your central bank, and we work for you. Could I have an indication of anyone who is visiting the campus and this conference for the first time? Aha! Let's put our hands together and especially welcome, oh yeah, oh yes. Special welcome to you. I also want to acknowledge our specially invited guest speakers, Professor Lloyd G. Waller from the University of the West Indies, Mona, and unfortunately, for reasons that we could understand, Professor is not able to join us in person, but we will hear from him virtually this morning. And Mr. George Thomas, CEO of Sagicor Bank, Barbados Limited. George, where are you? I just saw, right, there you go. Welcome to you, special welcome to you. Very good. Thank you very much. Before I proceed any further, I wish to thank my colleagues who have planned and are executing this event. There are many hands that have come together. This effort has been ably led by Dr. Shernell Thompson. Shernell, show you where you are. Deputy Director in our Research, Statistics, and Data Analytics Department. With invaluable support from our Corporate Relations Department, Corporate Governance Unit, and other departments including Management Information System and Support Services. Our theme this year is Navigating the Intelligent Age, Financial Innovation, Resilience, and Inclusion in the ECCU. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living through an unprecedented time when digital tools and AI are transforming how we move money, manage risk, and meet the needs of our customers. We are witnessing machines write, drive, create, and even think in ways we once believed were uniquely human. And in doing so, they are redefining what's possible in finance. Together, human ingenuity and artificial intelligence are reshaping how we understand risk, identify opportunity, and create value. In this intelligent age, data has become the currency of choice. Algorithms are advisors, and insights the quiet power that outpaces information and propels innovation. Yet even in a world driven by intelligence, trust remains the gold standard. And I want to repeat that this morning. Trust remains the gold standard. And customer satisfaction must continue to be our North Star. All the gadgets, all the innovation, trust is the gold standard, and customer service must remain our North Star. Those must never change. AI can do many things, but it should never replace critical thinking, human judgment, and genuine customer care. The words may be warm, but nothing warmer than a human hand. We engage with numbers, interest rates, spreadsheets, balance sheets, and dashboards on key compliance and performance metrics. They are necessary, but they are not sufficient. For as important as the numbers are, we do not serve numbers. We serve people. We serve people. Because at the end of the day, technology may transform what we do, but it cannot replace who we are. And who we are is defined by our integrity, our diligence, and our unwavering commitment to those we serve. So from our vantage point at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the vision for the intelligent age is one where all of us all of our people, citizens, residents, businesses, governments, can access AI and digital tools for their use, for their benefits, in an affordable, safe and affordable way. Safe and affordable way. That's the vision. It is this commandment that gives every transaction its true meaning, because behind every financial transaction is a real human story. A small business owner with a great idea, but limited or no collateral capital and capacity. A single mother tirelessly working to secure a better future for our children, or a family rebuilding after losing everything in a hurricane. And at this juncture, we extend our sympathy and solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Jamaica, Cuba, Haiti, and the Bahamas, whose lives and livelihoods have been disrupted by the passage of Hurricane Melissa. We know what you're going through. We've been there, and we stand in solidarity with you. Ladies and gentlemen, as if the unprecedented pace of innovation were not enough, we are operating in what can only be described as a VUCA world. VUCA, a world marked by volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and I have taken the liberty to add, anxiety. The original VUCA concept was introduced by the U.S. Army War College in the early 1990s, and of course it was 1A. But given the times, I have chosen to add anxiety to capture the moment and the mood that we are experiencing as the geo-reality, global economy reality evolves, shaped by geopolitical forces and geoeconomic shifts, but carrying and conveying profound socioeconomic implications for a region of small states. In the words of the late Jack Welch, 1935 to 2020, legendary former CEO of General Electric, we must embrace reality as it is, next slide, not as we would like it to be. That's a very important mindset to deal with uncertainty. Moreover, as Professor Carol Dweck of Stanford University has taught us, we should navigate the intelligent age and a VUCA world with a growth mindset. And so I wish to proffer 3 key messages that should guide our enterprise this week and going forward. First, we must put and keep people first. People first. Our financial system exists to serve people, not for profits, although we must make money. It exists to serve people. And every protocol, policy, and initiative should prioritize improving lives, promoting dignity, and enabling opportunity. And customer service and customer satisfaction must be anchored in service excellence. That is why I spoke about it as being our true North Star. And I'm making this point this morning at LFIs because we have to up our game in this region when it comes to customer service. Are you with me this morning? Is anybody hearing me this morning? I've said it before and I say it again. Customer service touches and concerns trust. Trust in you, trust in us as regulators, trust in our financial system. That is why we cannot simply ignore the clarion call, the demands, the cries from our people for better customer service, from our banks and from our financial institutions. And we must see it as a challenge to be embraced, not a criticism to be shunned, because it's about people first. Second, integrity, inclusion, and innovation. Our focus ought to be on building a financial system that is safe, responsive, inclusive, innovative, and resilient. And therefore, we should lead with integrity, strengthen trust, the gold standard of our industry, and ensure our actions reflect these values every single day. And our third key message, collective action. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make no mistake about it. Our best prospects in this region are small states in a hostile world that very often does not see us as small states, invisible and disposable as it were. Our best prospects lie in working together and sharing select services. Moreover, we must be relentless in our pursuit of the big push, leveraging collaboration to deliver better outcomes for all. And as we put people first, lead with integrity, inclusion, and innovation, and pursue our goals through collective action, we must take stock at this moment, briefly, on a macroeconomic context. So I want to do that very quickly. What are we seeing at this juncture? Next slide, please. Despite the global challenges, our region has demonstrated remarkable resilience. Growth in the ECCU, as you can see on screen, is slightly above 3%. This performance is reasonably good compared with many other countries and regions, but not yet sufficient to achieve our target of 7%, which is what we need to deliver the big push. What's the big push? Doubling the size of our economies over the next decade so that we can have a rising tide that lifts all boats, shared prosperity. For us to do that, we have to grow these economies at about 7% per annum and sustain that. And if we did that, compounding effect would deliver a doubling after 10 years. Now that is easier said than done because of the shocks that we face, but that's the target. So as you could see, we're well short of the targets, and there's much work to be done. Our financial foundations remain strong. As of October 31, 2025, the backing ratio for our EC dollar stood at 99.6%, well above the statutory minimum of 60%. Our reserves are growing, now at 5.6 billion, up from 5.3 billion a year ago. And excess liquidity is 1.3 billion, signaling ample space for responsible lending and investment. Inflation continues its downward trend. I know you don't feel it, but those are the numbers. And I always have to make the distinction between headline inflation and core inflation, because food and energy prices always outpace general inflation. So what you see in the supermarket, food inflation is not necessarily the general inflation. And by the way, inflation means the price is going up. It just means it's not going up as fast. Okay? Let's just be clear about that. Unless we talk about disinflation when the price is literally going down, or deflation, you know, we are in an inflationary environment. So let's just be clear about that. So it continues the downward trend. It's now at 2.1% year on year, which is an improvement from 3 years ago when it was around 9%. Now turning to financial stability. The banking system remains quite resilient. As you can see on screen, capital adequacy appears sufficient. Never get complacent about that, but appears sufficient following the implementation of the treatment of impaired assets standard. And while non-performing loans, that ratio is declining, now at 8%, down from 11.2% 2 years ago. You recall we were quite concerned about that after the pandemic, but we've continued to navigate, and the resilience is evident, and we must continue to bring that down. Remember the target. We want to get below 5%. These trends underscore the strength and stability of our financial institution. And I want to give you, LFIs, management teams, credit for the work that you are doing to ensure that you navigate the times, keep your system, your financial institution strong, and continue to meet all the regulatory demands. And yes, I know you say ECCB ease up, but you know it is we can't ease up because they're not easing us up. We're part of a global economy. We are part of a global economy. We are facing, as a regulator, the same pressure that you are facing as a regulated entity. So we're all in this together. We empathize, but we have a job to do. We're partners in development. You run the banks, we supervise you. That's the deal. So we have to work together. These indicators of stability and resilience are not just numbers. They are the foundation on which we must dream bigger and act bolder. A word on the big push. For our region, the big push, as I said, means the doubling of our economy. Shared prosperity for all. For individual, it means doubling your net worth. But what does it mean for your institution? So if I ask Bank of St. Lucia, Bank of St. Vincent and Grenadines, National Bank, CIBC, NCBA, I can't call all the banks today. What does big push mean for your institution? Have you even considered that? In your current strategic plan or your next strategic plan, how do you situate the big push? You can't be doing a plan in a vacuum. You can't be doing a plan in isolation from what the central bank is doing, from what the countries are doing. What does that mean for you? What does that look like in your institution? I'm asking you to consider that. And I'm inviting you to reflect on two questions. What is my institution doing to advance the big push? You see some of the theaters of transformation on the screen. Wealth creation, human capital and development, digital transformation, food and nutrition security, energy security, logistics and shipping. What is my institution doing, that's my question to you, to enable and advance and propel the big push? What are you doing? And then secondly, what more could I do? So let's say I'm doing something. What more could I do to advance this cause? Because remember, a bigger economy is good for you. A bigger economy, more opportunities to lend, more opportunities to deliver services, more opportunities to grow your balance sheet, deliver shareholder value, increase profits, increase profit sharing for your staff. But you have to do something to enable that. And we know, for example, the big push requires credit expansion. Therefore, you have a role to play in that regard. So what more can you do? Let's move on to the next slide. Achieving the big push is not just about numbers or macroeconomic targets. It's about building a financial system that works for all except illicit actors. And you've heard me say this many times. The financial system must work for all except illicit actors. As we speak, that financial system often hurts the smallest, the most vulnerable, and innocent and legitimate actors. And that's why we have to change that narrative and change that experience. And that is why I applaud the joint initiative of the Basic Bank Account, a partnership between you, the ECCU Bankers Association, and the ECCB, to ease the opening of bank accounts in our region. I commend the Bankers Association, I commend the working group for the work we've done in the last 2 years to enable that initiative to move forward, an initiative we now call the First Step account. Put your hands together for that collaboration. The big push also requires greater access to credit for micro, small, and medium enterprises, including startups, which are the engine of employment and innovation. In that regard, the Eastern Partial Credit Guarantee, which was launched 5 years ago in the middle of the pandemic. You have to have courage and guts in this region to do those things. That's what we did. As of October 31st, 2025, the program has now issued, next slide, 281 guarantees with a total loan value of $27.7 million and an issue amount, a guarantee amount of $21.2 million. And don't take my word for it. On screen, you can see the role that you have played, licensed financial institutions, in enabling us to move forward with the partial credit guarantee. The financial system must work for all except illicit actors. That means small businesses, startups, women in business, fishers, creatives, farmers, and others who are looking to get into the financial system. Before I continue, I want to commend the board of the Eastern Partial Credit Guarantee Program, and I see here the chairman, Mr. Michael Spencer. Michael, where are you? There you are, Mr. Michael Spencer, and the CEO, Mrs. Carmen Kumel-Strix. Put your hands together for them, for the hard work to get at this point. They've passed the goal of 250, they're heading for 300, and after that we're going for 400 and then 500. You can move that even faster. So I want you to do just that. And remember, these are your customers. These loans are your loans. The interest income is your interest income. So you're not doing them a favor, us a favor. You're helping yourself, and you're helping to enable the big push. Let's move on. I want to wrap up now. The Credit Bureau has been introduced. And I want to thank all those of you. And I'm told, Karen, where are you? That as of last week, or the November 1, we are now live in St. Lucia. So that's the 5th country to go live with the Credit Bureau. Still in the early stages, still settling in, but we are making strides. And I want to commend all of you for going forward with the Credit Bureau. Because this we know, wherever a Credit Bureau has been established, anywhere in the world, credit has increased. We cannot deliver the big push without credit expansion in this region. And therefore, the Credit Bureau is important to, one, enhance credit underwriting, credit risk management, but also to be able to allow us to increase access to credit. Many of you are familiar with the regional government securities market, which has served our region well since 2002. And I'm pleased to note that earlier this year, we passed an important milestone, $20 billion raised by our governments through the regional government securities market. And now we're taking it a step further. Because as great as that is, what have we observed? that 98.5% of those who are investing in that market are institutional investors. The banks, the credit unions, the insurers, the social security systems. Only 1.5% are individuals like you and me. We have to change that. I have challenged this region with an aspirational goal of moving persons who participate in this market from 1 in 25, 4%, to 1 in 5, 20%, over the next decade. In the United States, that's 3 in 5. 3 in 5 persons are invested in the stock market and are generating income and wealth every year. We have to change that narrative and that outcome in our region. And that is why for the last 2 years, we focused on this simple message, moving from savers to investors. I'm delighted to report that we are taking it a step further now with the launch of the retail bond program in our currency union. Starting with Grenada, with an issuance of about $5 million, the threshold is $500. So what have we done? We lowered the threshold from $5,000 to $500 to make sure that everybody can get into the retail bond program. And don't come with any nonsense about $500 is a lot of money. What did you pay for the last FET? Just saying. Just saying. And before you went to the FET, what did you pay to get ready to go to that FET? All right, case closed. That's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. Grenada starts and has launched. St. Kitts and Nevis is going to be next. And therefore, we are looking forward to rolling that out throughout our currency union, getting our people involved in this notion of investing. And not just time in the market, ING, but time in, as in spending time in the Eastern Caribbean Financial Standards Board. And I want to recognize our Chief Director, Dr. Polio Swayu, for the work here you're doing. Many of you have seen her with the team from legal and others working through the region. They're in Montserrat next week. That will complete the tour, bringing you the good news of what we're doing, and listening to your support. And then, of course, we need to get those things passed in Parliament. And, of course, I want to commend the governments that have already so done. Over the past year, at the request of our 5 countries, and I spoke to this last evening, citizenship and investment programs, we have been asked and we have led a work to establish a regional regulator. As I said last night and I confirmed this morning, we are pleased to report that the legislation has gone to all 5 countries and has already been passed completely in Dominica, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Grenada on Tuesday passed it in the lower house. Grenada is going to pass it in the Senate today, which means by end of day, all 5 countries would have passed this. I'm very pleased to express that because we believe this is a move to promote transparency, integrity, and to boost the long-term sustainability of our programs. On that note, I want to again acknowledge Professor Surak, from whom we heard a lovely lecture last night and gave us some really deep insights about the program globally and regionally and how we can go forward. Let's put our hands together again for Professor Surak. The final thing I want to mention before I conclude is our renewable energy program. That we launched last year, well, earlier this year, July. We've been working on this for the last few years. Next slide, please. And we're now at the point where we are moving forward with our renewable energy investment program. Essentially, it is an attempt for us to help our region with energy security. Let's move the slides along, please. And to allow us to be able to lower our carbon footprint, but more importantly, to lower the cost of electricity in our region. Some key initiatives or some key deliverables from that program are a financing package of $115 million from the World Bank to mobilize phase 2, which will include St. Vincent and Grenadines, St. Lucia and Grenada, with a focus on renewable generation and the modernization of our power grids. This financing package will enable 63 megawatts of renewable energy power generation, 20 megawatts of battery storage, 80 kilometers of grid investments across those 3 countries. And we also expect that would allow us to crowd in an additional $120 million in private capital to finance a pipeline of renewable energy projects. In that regard, I am pleased to note that the Partial Credit Guarantee Corporation is the entity of choice to take us forward with this program. Having established the guarantees program, SMEs, it will now work with us and partners like the World Bank to establish the Renewable Energy Guarantees Program to allow us to enable this to move forward. I'm also pleased to note that with this commitment and what we've done so far, we are the recipients of an award, the CARIF Award for Most Innovative Financing, and that was delivered earlier this year, an award received by us jointly, ECCB and the World Bank, as we move forward with this particular initiative. That's innovation again. Because the key thing about this is not just the money from the World Bank, but it's mobilizing private capital to allow us to really generate the resources that we need to do these investments, which are capital intensive. En passant, I make the point, this award is one of 11 prestigious awards that this bank, your ECCB, has won over the past 8 years. You could applaud your central bank for that. I really should not have to solicit an applause for that. You're getting complacent, you're taking us for granted now. But we will do what we do. We work hard, and we don't do it for award, not for recognition. We do it for development impact, because this is about people. And the more we're able to help and advance that cause, the better we feel about our delivery of our mission and our mandates. And if the awards come, so be it. But we are grateful for that recognition.
With Zoom, there's another way to do it, but in this particular instance, and perfect. All right. So, good morning, everyone. Governor, governors, distinguished guests, we're all meeting here today in what I can possibly call a truly changing time. I know certainly for Jamaica that's the case as it relates to what we just had to endure, Hurricane Melissa, and certainly the central banks, because I did have a conversation with them as well. The central banks do have some challenges, and from that conversation, I actually have some recommendations here. So we're at a defining moment in the world today, but more so in global financial systems. You know, the world is witnessing an explosion in generative AI, and technology, which is essentially transforming how we
Professor
essentially
Waller.
transforming. Hi,
Professor
hearing me?
Waller, Mr. Thompson here. My apologies. There's a noise in the background. We are not entirely sure what it is.
Oh, 1 second. Let me check. I think.
It seems to be.
Is it gone?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, I know it was the fan. You know, a usual instrument in the Caribbean that we have to use. It was the fan. All right, sorry about that, but you can hear me better now, right? Can you hear me better now? Banking sector in this particular regard. Now, I've been struggling to turn off my phone, and I get an opportunity now in between transitions to do so. Perfect. All right. So let's start with the first one. Forecast assistance. Many monetary teams, and especially policy teams, spend hours combing through dense reports before meetings, with looking at issues such as import pricing, shifting tourism demand, frequent climate shocks. The Caribbean forecasts are increasingly uncertain because we have many different, as small and developing states, we have many different variables that we have to take into consideration when calculating or predicting the future, especially financial futures. Teamwork often have to engage with different data sets, and I'm pretty much sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Person A collects data and defines gender based on age, based on, what is your age at your last birthday, which is an open-ended question, and you can always use any form of calculation technique to reduce that from, a ratio or interval to reduce it to categories. And person B has the question in categories, which of the following best represents your age group? And you end up in some instance, and then person C also has which of the following best represents your age group, and you end up with 3 different data sets with a challenge in terms of how do I make a necessary calculation. So you know what I'm talking about. It creates a sense of confusion, especially in instances that rapid consensus is needed. And I can speak from personal experience about, things that are happening. Now, the truth is Gen AI macro briefings, assist and connects you and actually connects you with approved data warehouses. It extracts key trends It helps to draft one-page summaries for you, for policymakers. It can generate simple narratives. There are many different tools that persons can use. For me, I like to use IBM Watson here when I engage with several persons who are working in the central bank sector. I called a couple of my colleagues to put me in contact with a couple of my colleagues who are working on AI, who they have, they're supporting banks around the world. I made a couple calls. The only two small island states that I really got in terms of effective use and what's fantastic for them was really a central bank in Fiji, and I support that a colleague of mine who works at a UN agency helps with, central banks with CBDC related issues, but is familiar with GenAI. And they argue that any one of these applications, IBM Watson, Microsoft, Google Vortex AI, can be used to address this. It can be used to help and facilitate a kind of forecasting assistance. And I have a video here. I hope I can show it. Watson X. I think I may have to just use YouTube. 1 second.
This is a defining moment. Generative AI has arrived, creating a once-in-a-generation opportunity for business. Meet IBM Watson X, an enterprise-ready AI and data platform in 3 parts to help you train, tune, and deploy AI models, scale workloads wherever your data resides, and design more trustworthy AI workflows. WatsonX.ai is our studio for AI builders to help you create powerful AI applications in a fraction of the time with a fraction of the data. Start with IBM's foundation models or thousands of open source models from the Hugging Face library and instantly begin working in our prompt lab. And with the ability to add your own data, you can train, tune, and deploy generative AI and machine learning models with ease. WatsonX.data is IBM's next generation data store. Based on an open lakehouse architecture, it brings together the flexibility of a data lake with the performance of a data warehouse to help you scale AI and analytics wherever your data resides. And WatsonX.governance is a powerful toolkit for AI governance to help you bring light to the black box, trace processes so you can explain your AI's decisions, monitor models for fairness, bias, and drift, and scale responsibly based on principles of transparency and trust. We are in a moment, and to meet it with confidence, you need AI that's built for business. WatsonX. Let's put AI to work.
All right. Would you believe me if I tell you that the screen thing moving is a new AI that I downloaded from Zoom? Zoom has a repository of GenAI you can actually download and play with. I didn't get into that, but and in working with this new Canva application, I went into ChatGPT to ask what's the best way to do the presentation because then I had a suggestion, had an issue. And can you believe it when I tell you that it made the recommendation? I installed the app, and it's the first time I'm using it, and it's actually quite good, fantastic. I also want to talk about Risk Radar as a solution that many central banks are now using. It's now becoming a more predominant tool for central banks, given the multiplicity of circumstances. Central banks and regulators, they often struggle, you often struggle, almost said you often struggle with how risk is spread across financial institutions and service providers. And, ownership links, vendor dependencies and cross exposure are scattered across different databases. And problems in one institution can generally quietly affect others before anyone even notices, and it can lead to a disruption and a crisis at the end of the day. And I'm pretty much sure, I know many persons know exactly what I'm talking about. So there are some GenAI, like GenAI linked loans, that can actually link the loans, the ownership, vendor exposure, and flag systematic weak spots in the banking system. It's a kind of, call it a kind of risk radar that uses connected data and simple network visuals to show who is linked to whom. It watches for fast-growing exposures and shared vendors or overlapping loans and sends system alerts to the person is responsible or in charge of that department or unit and let them know ahead of time a possible risk as it relates to a risky client, a risky situation, a risky financial analysis itself. It's kind of like that AI that show that, well, perhaps I shouldn't want to go down that route. The end result really wasn't really quite flattering for humans, but I'll withhold that example. So it watches for growing exposures essentially. And it can also draft short summaries in plain English for anyone to understand that you can actually send to your clients, send to your customers, or circulate in the bank. And that's a good thing about Gen AI. It helps to simplify activities. To give you an example, I sit on a board, and finance is not necessarily my strong point. I like money, but finance is not necessarily my strong point. And I got a demo for an AI that does financial management, and the financial director had presented to me the financial statements for the organization. I said, let me just drop it in the AI and ask the AI, are there any anomalies? And the AI flagged 43 anomalies, 22 of which it determined as red, several as orange, and a couple as yellow. And it just sitting there, knowing that I know nothing about finance and banking and finance, but I could sit there and have a conversation with the director of finance, tell him that the calculations are wrong, to explain to him that the calculations are wrong, to explain to him that this is why the calculation is wrong and he needs to check these numbers. And and they were flabbergasted. But afterwards, I actually sat and I spoke with them and I told them what they need to do. Whenever you're putting out the data, check it yourself. Check it yourself, because it would have been quite embarrassing if it was a different situation. But these are the simple tools that the banking and finance can use. And as it relates to Risk Radar, there are several tools that exist, but I want to just show one. Oh, here you are. I pause it. Hold on. Okay.
The path to success is rarely straight. Today, organizations find themselves in a vast array of critical decisions, where every turn can lead to increased risk, missed opportunities, or dead ends. In this maze of disruption and innovation, every step counts. Making fast, confident decisions is more critical than ever for you to become efficient, resilient, and reach your organization's goals before the competition. So much more is possible with the right data, in the right context. Quantexa helps you modernize decision-making and operationalize data with more accuracy and greater returns than ever before. Establish a trusted data foundation and put our decision intelligence platform to work. Unify data, use groundbreaking AI, and create context that augments and automates your decisions. Because applying decision intelligence isn't just an option, it's the key to building insights that will protect, optimize, and grow your organization. Quantexa, navigating data.
All right, so that's just one of several AIs that help to, as I said to you before, forecast and scan for risk, send you notes on possible risks, make recommendations how to mitigate risk, send you, in plain English, what exactly is going to happen. And of course, we're not being dependent on the technology. The good thing about it is that it flags something for you, and your job after is to verify. As I said to you before, it's a kind of co-pilot related activity. It's more of a co-pilot related activity whereby, the AI is there to support you, and therefore you should not fear it. You should embrace it and engage it at the very least until it starts to have a conversation with you. Oh, well, as I said to someone, we were having that AI is not sentient until one day you ask it to do something and it tells you no. When it tells you no, you know that that's the time for you to leave the room or to run or to start or to get to the bunker as soon as possible. I also want to talk about compliance. Sorry, I would like to just know how much more time do I have? I just don't want to go over my time. Because I could stay here all day and speak about all these fantastic technologies. You hear me? All right, I guess that means I can stay here all day. All right, so many different persons who work in compliance generally face a number of alerts daily, and most are duplicates and or minor issues that don't necessarily need to be flagged. But everyone must be checked, to be quite frank, and documented. And the workload for something like that is very substantive. And in speaking to the Fiji persons in particular, they were jumping and speaking about how one of the things that AI has significantly helped them with is compliance management. And they use co-pilot solutions such as NIST Optimize. That was one they had recommended to me. There are several, but those are the ones. They use these compliance co-pilots to gather information about transactions, about customers, media reports, and draft various documents that are automatically sent out. So it reviews all of the information for you. It will categorize and tell you what is flagged as substantive, what is flagged as minor, why it's minor. It will summarize it for you. I tested it out just to see how it worked, and I'm going to also recommend it to other regulators that are here in Jamaica, because it's not just for central bank. It's an excellent regulatory tool that helps in terms of managing compliance data and how you engage the compliance data. I think I found one. Here it is. Okay, 1 minute. Here you are.
Meet Walter. He's a compliance officer for a not-so-big regional bank. Although his operation may not be very large, the abundance of regulation and compliance requirements he needs to adhere to means that, nevertheless, Walter is facing big bank problems. Even worse is the fact that his current compliance platform is not able to keep up to speed with new regulatory requirements. And his IT division, or Donald, as it's otherwise known, cannot provide an adequate answer. Luckily for Walter, there's a powerful solution for him on the cloud. The new AML Essentials cloud solution by NICE Actimize allows Walter to enjoy all the benefits of a top-tier compliance platform quickly, easily, worry-free, and at a fraction of the cost. Following a simple integration process with any legacy system, all the operational responsibilities are securely shifted to the cloud, and Walter can rest easy, knowing he has the latest and greatest compliance tools. He can now do away with his costly on-site servers. Maintenance, upgrades, and IT housekeeping is done automatically for him, and Donald, his IT guy, can devote himself to other growth-generating tasks. AML Essentials is fast, easy to use, and flexible, and Walter discovers that he can not only improve the quality of his work, but also do it quickly and see results faster. Coming from the top-rated industry leader, AML Essentials is battle-tested and robust. It allows Walter to enjoy better case management and provide improved reports and explanations to regulators when needed. Things are definitely looking up for Walter. His new AML Essentials solution, you can achieve rock-solid compliance, contain compliance costs, and establish a foundation for growth. NICE Actimize AML Essentials. Quick to adapt, easy to use, proven for compliance.
Professor Waller, you have about 3 minutes remaining.
Perfect. All right. I am going to just jump to this one. Right. I just want to focus on this last one. Fraud Shield. One of the challenges that all banks will have to deal with, and certainly in the central banks, is scamming and deep fakes and using voices and so forth as it relates to transferring funds. As a matter of fact, there's this interesting case study that I just read about a bank in one of our sister islands where someone used a deep fake, and this is actually a central bank. Someone used a deep fake to. But it was still fraud, but nevertheless, it had to facilitate promotion. But the truth is, they could have used it for other activities. And the realities are in 2025, where you have many different countries that are competing, and the role that central banks play in the economics of competition. It's very important that we engage different types of fraud shields, and there are many different fraud shields that are on the market, as a matter of fact, that can help you to look at things such as data manipulation in calls and in video meetings, not being on a Zoom meeting or a Skype meeting or a Teams meeting and thinking you're talking to your boss, getting instructions from your boss, when the truth is you're talking to someone who has created a face that looks like your boss to give you instructions. There have been even cases of persons going on a meeting and seeing 4 members of senior management being sent a Zoom meeting link, and these are the remote workers. We have a serious meeting now with you. They jump in the meeting, they're with 4 senior managers having conversations about financial transactions. And when you see 4 senior managers, it's serious and it needs to be done now. And the 2 persons who are in the organization who can facilitate it are on the call. And when it's done, they have, and this happened in Las Vegas as a matter of fact, recently. I think you heard it on the news, but I don't think you heard the details of it. And when the gentleman was arrested for the fraud, and they were both arrested, they swore that they had a meeting with the CEO, the CIO, the CTO, and the chief experience officer of the hotel. And there's no recording of the meeting, unfortunately. But they sat in the meeting and they were given instructions about what to do in terms of transferring. I have to be careful what I'm saying. The transferring the funds, but what that just goes to show you, even though we're talking about hacking, there are certainly many different forms of scamming that occurs and can occur to you without you even knowing. And the last video I want to leave you with is just this little one, not very long, which I think is self-explanatory.
We have an urgent situation. I need you to transfer $250,000 to our partner to avoid an operations disruption.
That is a large amount. Is this approved?
Yes, it's critical. Do it right now.
Okay, give me 1 second. My security assistant just sent me an alert. I'm gonna call your phone number directly.
Wait.
That employee almost wired $250,000 to a scammer. Thanks to the Pindrop Pulse security assistant, that didn't happen. Pulse detects AI imposters in real time. It also helps to reveal if participants are really where they claim to be. For high-stakes calls like job interviews, Pulse goes further, authenticating that participants are not just human, but who they claim to be. Your video calls are vulnerable. Talk to us today.
So, thank you. As I said to you before, there are just so many different ways in which we are vulnerable. There are so many different ways in which we are actually vulnerable living in 2025. And it's going to get worse, to be quite frank. Next year, currently, many companies are experimenting with quantum technologies, quantum chips that expand the qubits themselves. In other words, the processing power will be 1,000 times much more faster than where it is right now. So they'll be in and out of the bank like this without you even knowing. And as a result of that, it's very important that we get ahead of the technology and we know what is coming. Thank you very much, everyone, for having me.
Thank you, Professor Waller, for that comprehensive presentation on the various AI tools that can help boost our productivity. Granted that we are a bit behind schedule, we are going to save any questions for when you rejoin us for our closing roundtable, and we're going to continue ahead with our program, okay? So I implore everyone to just take note of any questions you have for Professor Waller. At this juncture, we are going to break into two concurrent tracks. Track 1 is entitled Resilience, Sustainability, and Financial Stability, and this will be held right here in the auditorium. Track 2, Digital Transformation, Inclusion, and Consumer Trust, will take place in a Bernice White lecture room in the Sir K. Dwight Venner building, and will be moderated by Mr. Gideon George, who is an economist within the Research, Statistics, and Data Analytics Department. Before we separate for our parallel sessions, I kindly invite everyone to join us outside the auditorium for a group photo. And following the picture session, we will proceed to the respective tracks that you want to attend. After that, once we're concluded with the different tracks, we all convene here for our closing roundtable discussion. And so now I implore everyone to move outside so we can get our group picture. Thank you.